opinions stated in this podcast do not reflect the opinions of the Alestle or SIUE as a whole. Welcome back to another episode of Alestle After Hours. Sam Muren joining you with EIC Dylan Hembrough and our social media editor, Sophie Hawkins. Guys, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Good, yeah.
It's good to see you. We saw each other a lot. Sophie and I were talking about this before. It was nice. Haven't seen you in a little bit, and it was a great break. Not that I don't like you guys, but it, after we'll talk about it a little bit later in the show, but it's a 2 14-hour rides in a car the whole week together, hotel rooms together. It's just a bit much.
I was so glad to be home. I slept the entire day.
Me too.
I did too. No. Oh, I have a crazy story. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Let's talk about probably the more serious subject matter, and that's our newspaper that, of course, released this week and does every time Alestle After Hours comes out. It released on Thursday, and you're hearing this Saturday, even though it's not Saturday for us. But point aside, we have a few stories to talk about. Dylan has a few. Sophie has a really interesting one, too, one that we all got to experience with registration, so we'll see what that
I thought you were being sarcastic.
Oh no!
It being really interesting.
It is a kind of a joke. It isn't really interesting, technically, but the story is interesting because it does affect us all. So we'll see. And then I had a view from the sidelines, so maybe I'll brush up and preview Alestletics as it comes up. So, Dylan, let's start with some of your stories first. You had quite a few, including a rebrand story. Yes.
Like I always have quite a few. I want to make a quick note. When Sam said Alestletics, he did a little swish with his hands.
Yeah.
So.
We need to get video going here.
Yeah, we do.
That's a project, I guess. But yes, I did. To get in my sports mode. Tell us a little bit about the rebrand that's coming up.
Okay, so the rebrand, we changed logos 2-3 years ago now. So we have this sportier one, in my opinion. What they're doing now, at least in student affairs, which controls a lot of places in the muck, for the most part, I believe, they are not allowing any student affairs employees to wear, display, or use anything with the old logo on it. This technically applies to all old logos, but it's targeted at the little E that we know and love and mourn. So I got a little bit from University Marketing and Communications, as I do, and I also got to speak to 2 staff members who wished to remain anonymous because they were afraid of losing their jobs, which I think says something about the university and the environment here. But, and I'll be honest, I didn't even want to grant anonymity at first, but after discussing with our program director, we determined that the work environment here and kind of the speech environment as well, which is something that we keep a close eye on, kind of warrants that at this point. So I had a great conversation with them. A lot of good quotes of theirs in the story. That's really all I have to say about it.
Yeah, no, I've definitely experienced that too. Some of the athletics work I've done, they also are required to it's up to date, which is funny because you are wearing the old logo on your shirt.
I am.
Right,
that was not intentional.
Yeah, but again, we need video. So people in the comments could call us out, hey, we saw that swish, we saw that old logo. But no, it's an interesting story. So definitely check that one out. And then there was another story. Now, I don't believe you wrote this one, but you are familiar with this person, yes?
Right. So Gavin Quinlan, or Gavin 2, as we call him. He wrote this story, newer reporter. I think he's been on the podcast.
He has been on the podcast, yes.
Yeah, love him. He's doing great work.
Very good, by the way. He's
really
an amazing addition. And you got to hear him. You should go check that episode out. And he did well on his first podcast appearance, I believe, if that's correct. So
So the person that he did a story on, he did a Cougars in the Wild, which is basically us featuring somebody that has some association with SIUE. In this case, a pharmacy professor, one of my favorite professors ever. Her name is Kelly Gable. She's a psychiatric pharmacist, and she is also a breast cancer survivor as of recently. So kind of an interesting thing about this, peel back behind the curtain, she and my mom actually followed pretty much the same timeline with breast cancer. They both got it, I believe, around the same time, kind of had the same surgery, slightly different medication therapy, but they both dealt with the mental strain as well as the physical toll that it takes on your body. Not just chemo, but the anastrozole, letrozole, all that kind of stuff. And actually today, right now, my mom is in surgery right now. So I think it's going well from what I've heard. So prayers.
Yeah, prayers for her, keeping her thoughts.
Anyway, Dr. Gable got published an article that she wrote. And I forget the publication name exactly, but she basically was talking about how there's really no behavioral health or mental health focus in breast cancer survivors and throughout breast cancer treatment as well. So everyone knows chemo sucks. You know, you lose your hair, you become weak, your bones are like in agony the entire time, and that sucks. Like there's very much something to be said about that. But there's definitely a mental aspect that comes with it too. And I saw this with my mom when she was going through chemo as well. I mean, her losing her hair, I think it actually took a little bit more of a toll on me than it did on her, just because it was so like tangible of a marker that like, yeah, this is really happening.
That's something that you see every day. I mean, not that she doesn't look in the mirror, but like, it's the people around you that see the wear and tear on the people they care about. Yeah,
I will say my mom actually was probably the most optimistic about all of it, in all of her family, which is amazing. But there was definitely a mental health toll that was taken on her as well. Because of the pain, there was very little work that she could do, and she likes her job too. So she's kind of a project manager, tells people what to do, kind of like what I do, I guess. So the pain, as much as it is physical, there is also a lot of mental. And that's not really talked about much in breast cancer. I think something that Dr. Gable mentioned was, and I'm saying Dr. Gable because I've had her as a professor, so that's just how I know her. I believe it was towards the end of the story. She said, when you see a post about supporting breast cancer patients and donating breast cancer charities and all that kind of stuff, you never see it about the depression or the anxiety that comes with it. You always see, you know, the chemo side effects more or less, or the physical pain that somebody's in, what they look like, basically. Having a double mastectomy, that's also a pretty big physical change too. But, you know, for like my mom, for instance, she was like, that's, you know, my womanhood, quote unquote. So having that gone, it was huge.
Yeah, it's not just the physical toll, it's the emotional, and really it's an identity that it just wears on. So it seemed like a really good story, and I encourage everyone to go and read it. It's really neat. Again, Gavin, he's a beautiful writer too, so he probably captured it really well.
Definitely.
And he said that this was one of his favorite stories to write so far. He was telling me about this a little bit after the interview.
Yeah,
so which made me really happy.
Yeah, and it's a tear roller almost just to experience it and get her story from her own words. So definitely check that out because it affects a lot of people around the world, and not only the people that are experiencing cancer, but the people that know and care about them. So again, you can check that out on alestlelive.com. But we have another story, of course, this one coming from Sophie. And again, it's the boring story. Sophie gets tasked with that. It's not because Sophie wrote it. Maybe, no, I'm just kidding. Not because Sophie wrote it at all.
I think you put a little more life into the story than I would have if I was assigned it. So props to you for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
But this story is about CougarNet, everyone's favorite website.
Yay.
Everyone loves it. It's like the most visited site on us. No, I'm just kidding. But Sophie, tell us a little.
Maybe. I mean,
I doubt it.
Every student has.
Everyone's looking up the transfer. No. Sophie, tell us a little bit about the updates coming to CougarNet.
Yeah. So, CougarNet, everybody's favorite topic, right? But there were a couple changes, more so. With the aesthetics of CougarNet, specifically a bunch of updates to the landing page, more so organizational updates, making less options to kind of add to organization, and also updates to the navigation. I know one of the biggest changes was they went from a centralized menu bar to like a 4-square navigation site. It's on the top left corner of the landing page to help you find different things. For the most part, it's pretty similar. There's not a ton of crazy changes, but I talked to a couple students about it, and there's people that enjoy the changes and then people who are not happy with the changes, like everything. But yeah, it was pretty interesting to get insight on that. But overall, the changes are meant to help. I think it does add some more organization to the page, but they also have a video on the landing page of all of the new changes, which does make it a little bit easier to find things that you might be missing or can't find.
Yeah, I feel like there was some definite, navigational improvement. It just, the aesthetics part,
Yeah,
it's hard.
Aesthetics could be argued.
It's hard to make it look good because it's kind of more about function, which I guess it does serve its function.
Yes.
But it would be nice to look at something pretty.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
favorite quote from the article is one of the students I interviewed said it looked like a preschooler made it.
I thought that's where you were going to go with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 That was funny.
Well, can't all be great, but you know what? Students are very opinionated. Well, and they should
True.
be. They should
Yeah.
be. No, but that's again another story you can check out on alestlelive.com. That's a lot of our news. We also had lifestyles. Go check out Life and Opinions. We'll get to an opinion later on in this podcast. And then we had sports, which a little preview. I wrote my normal column, View from the Sidelines, and a little bit of talking about basketball, some identity. And men's basketball raised the banner for their trip to the NCAA this last Sunday, so about a week ago now. So that will be something I'm sure Audrey and I will be talking about on Alestletics next week. So stay tuned for that. And we'll drop sports from here on out. Well, that's not true, but it's kind of true. Well, we won't talk about it, SIU esports. But we do have an exciting topic to talk about. Obviously, if you were paying attention to the schedule, Alestletics came out a week late. It came out last week, and that was because we were in D.C. the week prior. And I mentioned on the show last week that we'll be talking about it, so here we are. We're going to talk about it. First, some logistics. It was a drive, a very long.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You got Sophie. Oh, yeah. And over here, because Sophie and I were in the back of our. How many people do we have in the car? 8?
8, including Tammy, yeah.
Yeah, so we had 8, including our program director, and we did it. We drove.
We did.
Well, Tammy drove. We rode.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a long 14 hours.
was a
About
trip.
14 hours. Yeah.
You know, it actually wasn't that awful for me, not just because I was in the passenger seat, but I've been to D.C. 4 times now. I've only taken a plane one of those times.
Yeah.
I've driven the other 3 times, or rode in a car. So, like, yeah, it sucked. But it wasn't that bad.
You know, I will say it wasn't the worst ride of my life. Like, I've experienced worse. But it was definitely not great. I wouldn't say I had loved it.
Yeah.
Just because it's not even because it's cramped, just because it's just like so much sitting.
Yeah.
And Sophie and I had the back seat, and I had the back middle seat, which, not to vent, but that was awful.
You had the worst seat. I think.
R.I.P. Sam.
Yeah. Took one for the team, but that's okay. It was still fun. It was worth it because the trip there was actually really great. And funny enough, it was actually Sophie's first convention ever. I don't think you've been to Chicago even, correct?
No, this was my first convention.
What a taste of Alestle convention.
Yeah.
It was a good one though. It was fun.
It was.
Sophie, what were your thoughts just on the convention as a whole?
I thought it was really cool. Yeah, this was my first ever convention, and I think it was just really eye-opening. I feel like I had a really narrow view of student journalism just because, like, all I've ever known is the Alestle and the way that we work. So getting to meet people from all these different student publications and going to all these sessions that I like, it kind of broadened my perspective of what you can do with student journalism, how it works. It was just crazy to see, like, all of the different aspects of student journalism, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, like the networking part. That was things I had people coming up and just asking for LinkedIn. Like in the session, we had talked a little bit, like maybe no more than 2 minutes, and then it's like, hey, can I have your LinkedIn? And it's like, yeah, I guess you can. I didn't really think about it, but sure, But you're right. I remember that on my first trip too. It's just like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's intimidating just being around all these other, but then it's like relaxing once you like get in your environment of like, hey, these people do what I do just a little bit differently. Let's learn about that, No, it was really cool. It was exciting for you. Even though you had to travel with all of us lunatics.
I feel like I know you all a lot better now.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah, there's some good and bad,
Yeah. Man, you should have seen me in New Orleans. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, that was when I first started. You guys went to New
Oh my
Orleans.
God,
and
yes.
my first impression of you guys was the group chat from New Orleans.
Yeah.
So.
I can't imagine.
There was so much emphasis in that channel on we're gonna scare Sophie away.
Yes.
So
Well, it's funny. You'll have to go back and listen. That was when Hannah was producer. So definitely check that episode out of New Orleans and all the shenanigans that happened down there. But honestly, DC was a lot of fun. It was a really, I thought the convention was a bit better this year in New Orleans than the one in DC than the one in New Orleans was a bit better. Not really based on like material, but more just like there was just, journalism is so important in Washington D.C. that we just got to see it like in action, I feel like. And all of us had little individual moments where we had something cool happen, including, I really want to talk about this with Sophie. They had a C-SPAN tour, and I know you and Brandy our opinion editor, got to go on that. Can you talk
Yeah.
about the C-SPAN tour just a little bit?
Yeah, it was really cool. I didn't even know that like we would have the chance to tour C-SPAN until like I think the first day, but it was really interesting to go, and we went, I mean, while things were going on, so we went into one of the I don't know the specific name for it, but one of the rooms where they
Control rooms, maybe?
Yes, control rooms where they were streaming something, and we walked in, and the woman doing it said, you know, she might have to do something on the air, so if that happens, just to be really quiet. And it happened while we were in there, and she had to, because it was audio, she had to voice who was speaking, like, when it changed while we were in there. And that was really cool to watch. And just, I don't know, seeing everybody in the work environment was really interesting. Like,
Was that the day that Zelensky and Trump were meeting, correct? Or was something...
I believe so.
I think it
yes.
was. It was something like that, which was, again, that was something that, like, I had never seen as, like, a whole road shut down, you know, like...
That was crazy.
I mean, like, that was just things that I have never been to D.C. I know Dylan has, so he's probably the only one here
The
that has some...
expert.
Yeah, the expert. But no, that was crazy. And just to see the White House, like, or not even the White House, but because we were about, 2-3 blocks away from the White House. It was, I mean, it was a small walk. We could do it in less than 20 minutes. And just to see the atmosphere of it was interesting, especially for someone that's interested in the journalism part too. So, no, it was cool. And I mean, that was a good point. The C-SPAN stuff was that was a neat opportunity that you and Brandy got to do.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I know we talked before, Brandy and I talked, she said she really enjoyed it. She was excited that you got to go with her because it was like your first time and you got to do something cool.
Yeah, I felt like a little kid. It was crazy.
Yeah, it does. Honestly, like really like going to the monuments was pretty cool. That was a bucket list item for me. Just seeing all the things. We saw the Jefferson, we saw the Lincoln, we saw both the Vietnam and the Korean War Memorial. So it was pretty cool. Now, we did have the shutdown going on, which is currently, as we're recording this, still going. Probably going to be when it's published too. But so we didn't get to do like the archives and stuff like that. But it was still pretty neat. Honestly, I think that was kind of better for us because we kind of narrowed our adventures to what we needed to see or what we could see. You know?
All the Smithsonians were closed too. That was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it was. I really wanted to see the Archive Center just because I think I'm pretty sure they still had the Constitution on display for America's 250th birthday, and that would have been really cool to see it in D.C.
That would be cool.
But government, no, I'm just kidding. but no, it was really cool. There a few fun moments of the trip. Audrey insisted that we included this. We had our little Wawa gas. It's not a gas. It's a convenience store. And Audrey was there every day, I think.
Audrey loved
so, yeah.
Wawa. Yeah.
Audrey and Wawa are one. And
Truly.
she got a matcha every day. I
I don't blame her. They were good.
They looked good. They looked like they tasted good. And then there was McDonald's across the street. But Audrey was at Wawa. That's where we ate quite a bit, a few times, I think. At least Audrey did.
Yeah.
And I think I just went with her. So so I was there a lot. Something else, we had the... Sophie, Audrey, and I, we all kind of did our own thing certain days, which was a bit fun. But I definitely thought we'd have to mention this. We got to go to a Washington Capitals game, which was pretty cool. And Sophie and I are big hockey fans, as you may know. Sophie, talk about the Caps game a little bit. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, first Caps game. It was pretty crazy. Seeing Ovi with my own eyes was insane.
Seeing the banner that they flip for the
banner.
That was cool.
Also, the literal eagle that was there.
Yeah, we got to see it. Guys, it cannot be drawn up any better. Of course, the gate entrance we chose, like literally less than 2 minutes. We look to our right, and there's just a live bald eagle with its trainer, like right there in front of us.
Yeah.
We got selfies with it. We got to watch it freak out when it was doing the ceremonial puck drop. It was crazy.
That was a little crazy.
It was not a little crazy. It was a lot of crazy. But yeah, so that was the closest I've ever been to a bald eagle, which like national pride right there. You could just walk up to the national bird and there he is. It was crazy. I don't know, but that was the closest I had ever been to like an eagle.
Your first selfie with an eagle?
Yeah, it was. It was a fun selfie too. But yeah, no, you're right. The game was so cool. Ovi scored. The Caps won. Audrey was there for Minnesota, but they lost. So that was kind of...
It was a tough game if you're a Minnesota fan.
Yeah, poor Audrey. But we had fun.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Audrey had Wawa. We had the Caps game. And then everyone else did kind of... I know a lot of like Chloe and Brandy and Olivia and them went shopping. thing too, which was a lot of fun for them. And it was really cool to be in the district. Chloe and I also got to go see the Supreme Court, which was guys, it was unbelievable. It was something where I went thinking like, okay, Supreme Court, whatever, I left like dumbfounded. I was geeking, as they would say, like, and so was Chloe. This is her thing. This is her lifestyles editor. She's a big law and policy person. She follows the Supreme Court. She does a lot of research. She's a poli-sci major.
Yeah.
Yes, she's a major in poli-sci. So it was just, we got there, she was already cheesing, and we're looking at all these portraits, and all of a sudden this guy is like, hey, do you two want to go see something tour? That's all I heard. Like, I didn't hear what he said. I just heard tour. And Chloe was like, yes. And I was like, yeah, we got time, We get up there, and it was up an elevator, and all of a sudden it's like we're in line to go into the hearing room where they have like the deliberation on cases and where the justices sit. It's like open to the public, and it was amazing. The room was gorgeous, and the guy that was talking about like how you become a justice, how you get here to the court, he explained where everyone sits. It was so cool. It was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. And then after that, to cap it off, we had lunch at the Supreme Court cafeteria. I officially have eaten chicken strips at the Supreme Court.
Wow. Bucket list.
Bucket list item right there. Never thought I'd say that, but here I am. And so it was really cool. It was a really neat experience for sure. Dylan, did you have any favorite non-convention parts of the trip?
I went on a little solo sightseeing adventure, and that was nice. So I just saw a bunch of stuff that I had seen already, but even being in DC for the fourth time and like seeing all these things again, it's like it doesn't lose its charm.
No.
Really, which is interesting because like I don't know. St. Louis is great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but,
I was about to say.
Yeah, you better watch.
If you say something bad about St. Louis, Sam's coming for you.
There's just like not as much to see in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's fair.
As far as like tourism goes, unless you like really, really dig deep. But I was gonna go just to the White House, but I couldn't find a good place to view it from. So I was like, I guess I'll go to the Washington Monument. It's right there. And then I was like, I might as well go to Lincoln Monument. It's right there. So I ended up being out for about 2 hours, all walking. I did my tradition of going to the World War II Memorial and taking a picture of the Illinois.
Yeah, their state monument, basically.
Yeah, it's like
archway?
This. It's like a double pillar with.
Yeah.
It looks like archway is probably.
It's kind of like it's a semi-archway.
Yeah, you can't go through it, but like it looks like an archway. So they have one of those for each state and the U.S. territories and everything. So every time I'm in D.C., I take a picture of the Illinois one. My little tradition. At the Lincoln Memorial, they actually had a rally going on. It was the day before the King's protest. So I just sat there and watched for a little while. It was really interesting. There weren't that many people there, I think, because most people were going to be there the next day. And there were a lot of people there the next day, from what I heard. I wasn't there during it.
Yeah, we didn't get to see the No Kings rally, but I mean,
we were in the awards.
We were in the awards at the time, but we did see. I saw a lot of it, and it was just people out really in general.
Yeah.
They were either leaving or coming, and it was really neat. It was really an interesting time. Again, it's an interesting political time as well to be in DC, but I thought it was still really cool. And that you mentioned about losing its charm. I know it was my first time there, but it was just. When I think DC, all I think is the grime of politics and like just the disgust. And
it is a really beautiful city.
It was
like even taking away the touristy stuff.
Absolutely.
Like the houses, at least the part we drove through, which didn't seem like a super special part of DC, to be honest.
No, we were in a nicer area for our hotel, but we also did drive on the outer parts when we went to some other things too. And I thought like just really like the metro was really nice because Chloe and I took the metro.
Yeah.
It was a really. I was impressed. It was like, hey, I'm proud to, this is my capital of my country. It made me happy to be there, despite whatever's going on. And so I thought it was a really neat experience, personally.
I got to show everyone my favorite fun fact about the Lincoln Memorial. Do you remember what it is?
Yes, there's a misspelling.
Yeah, there's a typo.
Oh.
No, which word is it? Is it not freedom?
It starts with an F.
Ah, dang it, I forgot already.
It's future.
So that's right.
On the right side of the Lincoln Memorial, when you are like walking in, so I guess Lincoln's left, I think that's the Gettysburg Address. Or no, Gettysburg Address is on the other side.
No, I think you're right. I think I think the Emancipation Proclamation is on the left side.
Yeah, Gettysburg Address is on the right. Okay.
Yes.
So in the first column, because there are like 3 panels that have these words. These are etched into stone, by the way.
You think you'd get it right the first time?
Yeah. And they did for the most part. There was just the word future kind of midway through the first panel. they originally spelled it Ucher, like with an E. They put an extra thing on the F.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, they had to go out of their way to do that. So they fixed it, obviously, but like, if you know where to look and what you're looking for, you can see that it used to be an E. There's like it's slightly darker, the bottom line of the E. So if you're not looking for it, you won't notice. But I had that pointed out to me on a tour a long time ago, and I was like, that's so funny.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing fun fact.
Yeah.
Just for sure. But yeah, no, it was a really good time being in DC, seeing all the monuments. Now, we did also go back in the car. we did.
Yes, we did.
It was a 2-way trip in that vehicle. But no, I thought the drive back was still really good. I'm sure.
The ride back felt shorter to me.
It did.
But maybe it's because I was tired.
The ride
Yeah.
back felt so much longer because everybody was screaming, and I had a loud song playing 100% up in my earbuds for hours, and I could still hear people screaming clearly, and I was like, guys, for the love of God, stop, please.
Yeah. Okay.
I bet I can tell you exactly when in the car ride that was.
Yeah.
It was for a few hours.
It was for a while. That's because we were watching George W. Bush compilations.
Oh, yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
I heard.
Yeah. And you know what, though?
And they were hilarious.
They were worth it. We were not screaming. We were howling at that.
Yeah.
No, but it was I don't want to say a fun ride back, but it was more enjoyable for at least
Yes,
for the people involved in the
definitely.
George W. Bush memeing. But yeah, no, and another thing that I wanted to talk about was just some of the sessions. Like we all, I think, went to a very good amount of them and learned quite a few things. I went to a few podcasts. So if you hear new things on the podcast, something I might have picked up. But I figured maybe we could all mention a little bit about one of our favorite sessions.
My favorite one was actually the first one I went to. It was 3 hours or 4 hours.
Yeah, it's
the
4
early
hours.
bird one. It was put on by an organization called Trusting News, which I'd never heard of before. The organization, not the idea of trusting news. But they basically work with news organizations to foster trust with their readers, which I think is really cool, especially now. And while I was in that panel, I was like, I think we should bring some of this home with us. So given that I've been to so many conventions at this point, it's like I'm not really learning a whole lot at some of these sessions. But this one I learned a lot at, and I was very happy that I went to it. So what came out of that was what we're launching. I just called it the Trust Project, and I was like, if there's a better name, please suggest one, and nobody did, so the tentative name stuck. But yeah, we're doing the Trust Project. It's basically to gauge our audience's trust in the Alestle news content against, like, general news, like the big mass media corporations, just to kind of compare those where we stand in comparison to, like, Fox, CNN, NPR, and also to see where some of our deficiencies might be. So something that they were talking about a lot in the convention, or at that session rather, was, do your readers feel like you're A, representing their community at all, and B, representing their community well? So that's directly turned into a question that's in our Google form, which I'll get to in a second. And then we have a space as well for basically, like, what do you want to know about journalism? Why we do things the way we do. They talked about the information void as well, which is where somebody who is not acquainted with journalism, so a reader, reads a story. They don't have all their questions answered about the story. The newsroom may have those answers, but, they're not presented in the story. So the reader, instead of just saying, like, oh, I guess there are questions, fills in that information with what they know already. And what they know already may or may not be true, especially now that there's a lot of misinformation or disinformation. I say now that, like, it's a new problem, but it's worse now, I think, with social media. So they fill that information in themselves. And part of what Trusting News does is trying to close that information gap so that readers are more aware of what decisions are being made in the newsroom, like, in general. They don't have to be, like, in tune to day-to-day things, but just in general, like, how does our anonymity policy work? What do we think about AI? We don't like AI here, by the way. We have a whole policy on it. So, yeah, it's basically your chance as a reader to just ask us whatever you want about our processes, why we do things the way we do. And in January, in our first print issue of the spring semester, we are going to answer all those questions. And we'll print the questions, we'll print answers. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. So I want as many people to participate as possible. So please fill out the Google form. It won't take that long. It's not super long. We're going to advertise it on socials every so often over the next couple months. and it'll be going out in the newsletter as well, in an ad. There's going to be a QR code. Yeah, it'll be fun. I think if enough people participate, it'll be eye-opening for both them and us.
Yeah, for sure. And you're doing a letter from the editor.
Oh, yeah, there's a brief thing where I run my mouth about what it is and explain it in the paper. So you can read that if you want.
Yeah, definitely get that out and check that out if you need like the details in writing, for sure. So that's in this week's edition too. You can find that. Sophie, how about you? What was your favorite session of the trip?
Yeah, my favorite session was on Thursdays. It was right before the last day of sessions. It was finding and reaching your audience on social media. It was the Washington Post. They have a social media coach, which I'd never heard of in my life.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then one of their assignment editors came in just to talk about like reaching your audience. But I thought it was really interesting because the social media coach, which is kind of like, I think they kind of created this position for the woman who is speaking specifically, but she coaches people at the Washington Post on how to build their own personal social media. So the assignment editor that was there, he focused primarily on like brand relevance and finding your audience as a brand. But then hers was kind of becoming an influencer within your brand. Mm-hmm. So she helps people that work at the Washington Post, reporters, what have you, basically grow their social media presence as well, which I thought was really interesting because I'd never thought about that side of it. And I know that we've kind of talked about recently, like having ambassadors of sorts, or like
influencer
students. So that was, I thought, pretty similar to that, and an interesting take. But also just to be able to ask questions to people who work at the Washington Post was really cool. Yeah, it was a little different from having a student publication do it, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's interesting you bring that up. You notice it in a lot of journalism where they create, like you said, they create their own identity. So like because a lot of people fall in love with certain journalists too. I know I do that especially for sports, but like in other things as well. And then they like follow them when they move papers, and then they bring that brand with them wherever they go. Yeah. So, which is really cool. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it helps humanize the brand too, definitely.
Absolutely. It doesn't make it seem like this corporate organization that's going to take your money.
That surprised me. There was a question about that in the Trusting News session, and I was like, oh, people definitely view like the corporation as more trustworthy than the individual. Like people look for that, obviously. That was just like, that was it for me. I'm also not on social media that much. So like I have a TikTok account. I'm never on it. I watch Instagram Reels sometimes, but they're usually cat videos. So I don't really follow individual journalists that much. I have, AP, NBC, NPR, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's usually what I look at.
Yeah, but I think in especially regional, like there's journalists that I follow from St. Louis, that religiously I'm stuck to them. If they got fired by the Post-Dispatch and they went here, I would follow them to there, Not that I don't like the Post-Dispatch, it's just I like this person. I think that's a lot of people too, especially in like broadcast where you can see the person. It's like easy to build a brand because you can see their face. Yeah. And I think some written media have used social media as their way to kind of do that. But no, that's a really interesting one. So my favorite session was a bit different. They had a lot of faith-based journalistic sessions, which I thought was really cool, especially for someone like me who is faith-based individual. And this one, they had two documenters who had created documentaries, and they were really interesting. It was faith-based documentaries, but they talked about like their travels into Ukraine and Poland, and I believe Mongolia was another place where they had followed individuals and done short-form documentaries on these people. And it was really interesting. It was really cool to meet people that had traveled the world doing what they love and what they believe in. So that was probably my highlight of the trip. And that was on the first day of like not the long sessions that Dylan was talking about, but the first day of the actual sessions was the first one I showed up to. So no, it was really good though. And our trip to DC was really fantastic. It was just really all out really good. I think for someone like Sophie, it was probably an amazing first experience on a convention.
It was definitely.
It was probably my favorite of the three I have been on. And so, yeah, it was a good time. But there was one other interesting thing that did happen at convention while we were there. It wasn't in the presence of us, but it was somewhere else. So the Indiana Daily Student had some interesting circumstances, and I know Dylan wrote an opinion about this, so I'll let him kind of kick off the story and tell us what happened there.
Yeah. So Indiana University, they're in Bloomington, Indiana, I believe. Their paper is the Indiana Daily Student, and very reputable student journalism. Like they're pretty top notch. I believe they have a giant staff too. Hence why they're called a daily. So their advisor, Jim Rodenbush, or former advisor now, also ironically a former student of our advisor Tammy Merritt, he was fired by Indiana University, specifically by their media department, because he refused to dictate what his students could and could not publish. So diving into that a little bit, it's a pretty common misunderstanding in student journalism that the advisor is not the one that decides what does and doesn't get published. In very rare circumstances, like if, we were going to publish something that would get us in legal trouble, they would step in. But let's say Tammy didn't like, my political column or something like that. She can't tell me stop publishing that or else.
Yeah.
So, and that goes for any story, again, unless it were to get us in legal trouble, which has not happened in the time that I've been here, knock on wood. So it's entirely student run, and there's a law in Illinois specifically for that. In a lot of other states, there are laws for that. There's a lot of court case precedent, etc. So what IU was trying to do was, well, a few years ago, they'd cut down the IDS's print, which, funny enough, had happened to us too. They cut it down to like 7 issues a year, basically. And now what they wanted is not only did everything have to be a special edition, so like a themed one. In this case, for them, it was Homecoming, which, is it fun for students? Yeah. Is it the most newsworthy thing ever? Not really. Not only that, they wanted them to be publishing no more actual news content at all in print. And they said in print, they're like, you can publish whatever you want online, as far as I know, but, that's still censorship. They had talks with their advisor, Jim. He was like, no, that's censorship, that's illegal, and they fired him. In their letter, I'm not going to remember this exactly, but in their letter, they basically said, we fired you because of your poor leadership and because you refused to go along with the university's vision for student media. And I'm like, whoa, that's such blatant overreach. The Student Press Law Center, who was there, agreed. One of their people, Mike Heiston, he goes to a lot of these conventions, and he was at this one too. He was like, this honestly should probably be one of the easiest cases ever.
Yeah.
Because it's just so blatant and like stupid even on their admin's part. Yeah. Like if you're going to censor, there are ways to be subtle about it.
Right.
And they are not. So, but this is kind of blown up into something national. Jim Rodenbush was there as well. I got to meet him, shake his hand. Cool guy, very down to earth. It was amazing to see that people like us, like our age, we are adults, but we're students. And a lot of admin like to say, well, you're not really adults. We decide what you do and what you don't do. It was really cool to see people like us standing up for that.
Yeah.
For what's right in their own rights.
Yeah, it was neat to see at the convention because it was definitely a wronged feeling to a lot of people,
Yeah.
all in one spot. So the support that the Indiana Daily Student got was really nice to see whenever they won,
Yeah.
and all that.
There was one award that Jim went up there to get for them, and he got a standing ovation for a few minutes. That was cool.
Yeah, it was very neat.
Yeah.
So, but overall, the trip was really good, and even though there was some lows on that end, it was definitely a high feeling at the convention center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And overall, the trip was just an enjoyable thing from beginning to end. I thought it was a great moment for everyone. I think everyone had a pretty decent time too from our staff. So, but that will lead us into our obsessions. Does anyone have an obsession they're dying to tell?
I do. Season 2 of my favorite show came out today.
Today?
I have not seen it yet, but they've been releasing teasers. It's Has Been Hotel. It's an adult animated thing. It takes place in hell, so if you're super religious, you may not like it, but it's a very, very profane, very vulgar, but the story is so good. I would say genius even as a writer. It's just the way that they portray everything is amazing. So season 2 came out today, and they've been releasing teasers for it the last couple months, hyping it up, and I'm like, I need it. I need it right now. I need to
Yes.
watch the entire thing right now, which is probably what's going to happen tonight.
Yep.
So, and I was a little hesitant to call it my favorite show because I'm like, if there's really only one season, can you call it your favorite show? But I think I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't watch that much TV.
Hopefully the second season doesn't disappoint.
I don't think it will.
Okay.
I know like the overall arc, not how it ends, obviously, but it's an interesting arc and not what I expected after the end of the first one, but I think it's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
it is. Sometimes those shows, you just never know. They just flop the second
Yeah.
season. But I hope in your case it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sophie, how about you? What's your obsession of lately?
Not to go back to hockey, but I've been doing a
Oh,
fantasy hockey league.
Oh, yes.
No,
No. This is fun.
I'll
This is
spare
fun.
you. But the fantasy hockey league, it's essentially the same as fantasy football, which I feel like everybody does, but it's for hockey, which is way more my speed. It's so much fun. I do it with my friends and family, so it keeps us connected, but also it gets really competitive. I feel like every day I'm like checking my lineup and I'm watching all the games just to see if I'm winning or not. And I'm on a hot streak right now. I've won 3 out of my 4 games.
Yeah, I got to see this fantasy hockey
Yeah.
league. I'm a
Yeah.
witness, and it is pretty cool. I told my dad about it, and he's like, "Well, if our family was cool and liked hockey like you and I did, we'd have one of those too." And
Yeah.
I said, "Well, our family's not cool, but like Sophie's is." But no, that's really cool, and it was fun. It was fun. I was like, Sophie and I on the ride back were analyzing her team,
Yeah.
how good her mom's team was versus and
I was going to bring that up. I don't know anything really about fantasy sports teams, but wasn't there like some tension between you and your mom over that?
Okay, now I'm trying to think.
Nope, spill the tea, spill the family hockey league tea.
Tension. I can't think specifically with me and my mom, but I think there's tension. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, my sister likes to
okay.
cheat. I hope she's listening to this. I'm gonna make her listen. My grandparents play. They're not the most tech savvy. She will go help them choose their teams, and she'll like get them to trade her players that she thinks are good for players that aren't that great. So she'll like rig it, and then she always thinks my dad's cheating because he's like the league supervisor. So there's a lot of drama in fantasy hockey.
It's like the NFL in real life.
Yeah.
The officials, they're cheating. What was that flag?
Rigged.
It's rigged.
Yes. And if you want higher stakes, we all put money in so we can get a jersey at the end of the year, and then everybody plays like it's legit.
It's for
Wow.
real.
It
no,
is.
I witnessed. It was pretty cool. What jersey would you, well, okay. I know the answer to this.
I don't think you do.
No, I do. But
Say
what jersey would you buy if you won?
What? Wait, I want to know what you think.
I think you'd buy a Nazar jersey.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
It's up there. It's a thought. I don't know.
By the way, Frank Nazar the third actually plays for the Chicago Blackhawks, which is Sophie's favorite team.
Yeah.
The wrong team, but a team.
That's a debate for another day.
We'll spare that from here. Okay, but what jersey would you get? I
I
stumped her.
actually didn't have one like ready. I don't know.
Wow.
Ovi would be cool now that I've been to a Capitals game.
She challenged you and had nothing to back it up.
Yeah, I know. I was like, well,
I stumped her.
Yeah.
I got her.
you did.
Frank Nazar. I would buy a Frank Nazar
Hey,
jersey if I was a Blackhawks
You know
fan.
what? Maybe I will now.
There you go. You're inspired. Well, my obsession has not been hockey related for once in this long podcast
Crazy.
history. I played hockey and I was not obsessed with that. It was very exhausting. I had a lot of fun, but that's not it. The Blues are not very good.
He's
I
still
would
talking
not
about
wanna be
hockey.
obsessed with
I'm
them
not.
right
I'm
now.
talking
It's
about.
not hockey, but all this hockey stuff.
Here's all this hockey stuff that's made me obsessed with it. And SIUE hasn't even played at home, so I have had no hockey hopes. So
Maybe you should be a Blackhawks fan.
no, I think I'll pass. I think I'd rather be any other fan. But no, I think my obsession. Oh, man, this is a tough one. But I'd have to say what I'm doing for the SIUE Mass Comm Club has been pretty fun. We're doing a networking night. Or not night. It's technically during the day, but it should be a really good time for all the Mass Comm students. And I love just networking with people. That's probably one of my favorite things to do. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm on this show. So that's probably my obsession. And you should go. It's November 14th, and you'll probably see me there and see everyone else there. You'll see the Alestle there. They're actually going. They're one of our organization's meetings. So that should be a lot of fun, and it's student oriented and on campus. So free food. Please show up. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
This is not an advertisement. But yeah, so that's one of the things I'm obsessed with. But You should be obsessed with listening to this podcast and every other podcast that we release, including the one next week, Alestletics. We talked a lot about sports on the show. I'm sorry, we try. It always leaks over. I can't help it. But if you want all SIUE-related sports, you should listen next Saturday. We'll be on our normally scheduled program here, and Audrey and I will have lots to talk about with basketball kicking off. So tune in for that. If you're waiting for more of this show, you'll have to wait about 3 weeks, and we're kind of closing out the semester here. It'll be late November by the next time we join you on air. So stay tuned for that as well. As for this show episode, whatever you want to call it, we are out of here. So we will see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.